4 now on 2BL. You're with Frank Crook until 6. The search for Australia's greatest eccentric has ended. No doubt you'll recall that 2BL has run a competition for some time now, a couple of months, asking listeners to nominate someone they believed could live up to that title. Well, without further ado, let's meet him, Australia's greatest eccentric, a gentleman called Mr. Ivor F. Ivor, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Frank. Thanks for having me.
I should tell you a bit about Ivor. There's just some of his curricula here. He's collected 1,200 eggs for Penrith Hospital. He dives into a pond each morning after running a mile barefoot through the frost. That's in the winter. He rolls on broken glass. He's hand-carved 25,000 propellers for model aeroplanes at a penny an inch. He's taught 1,000 children to swim. He's taught 2,000 kids to build and fly model aeroplanes, and among his other achievements is he is capable of standing on his hands and playing a mouth organ simultaneously. Ivor, how do you do it all?
Most of that stuff was in the past, Frank. It's a long time since I rolled on broken glass.
Where did you learn that trick?
In Borneo. I was in the second Ivor F in Borneo, and I met this Indian faker. It's spelled Fakir, but I think there should be an E in there. He taught me how to do it. Like most good stage shows, it was a trick which I learned to do. And the last time I did it, I cut myself quite badly, so I decided it might be time to give it up. The bottles were real.
Ivor, you were nominated by Stan Nightingale. He's a school teacher.
Oh, now there's a thing. I'm supposed to be...
Didn't you know that?
I'm supposed to be 2 slices of tomatoes short of a full salad. What about him? And what about the people who gave me the award? I mean, don't tell me there that the full 6-pack, if there's not 1 or 2 missing in that lot. H.G. Nelson... Remember, if they're H.G. Nelson sausages, they sizzle when they're sliced. Or is it his hair care product?
Well, I think it's nice that there are a few eccentrics around. I had a terrible feeling for a while there you might have been the only one. But you must have made a big impact on Stan Nightingale. Now, he was a headmaster at the school at Bringelly, I think, where you came to work.
Bringelly, yeah. Bringelly. Well, I first of all met him in a place called Bensley Road, and he spent a year doing nothing but playing ping pong because they had a school and no kids to put in it. Now, that's not being a bad sort of a rat bag. I'll settle for that one any time you like. First thing I did when he walked in, the first thing he did was I was wearing a tie because I thought it looked more genteel, you know. He pulled it off and threw it in the corner and said, don't wear ties in my school. Now, no wonder he nominated me. No wonder Jeannie Little picked me when I'm in good company.
Stan, you were a school teacher yourself, and then when you retired, you became a counsellor at school. So you've done apart from being eccentric, you've done quite a lot of good for people.
Oh, thanks. Well, I was a school counsellor in 1967. I did the course with a lot of other very fine people, and I liked the job. And now that I have retired in my 60s, I'm back there doing it in some of the schools in the Metropolitan West and the Metropolitan Southwest, where it's harder anyway to find people to go and work. I enjoy it. I surely do. I don't want to quit now. What do they say? You're meant to wear out, not to rust out.
Yeah, good philosophy.
Yeah.
I believe you've been something of a stirrer in the area of children's education too in the past.
Well, yes, I have stirred. Way back in 1953, it was my boast that it took the death of Stalin to push me off the front page. I was giving, in inverted commas, sex education talks. I thought I was the big P. They say everybody's allowed his quarter of an hour on the world stage. Is that what they say, Frank? Something like that. But I wasn't the big P at all. What I didn't know was the headmaster was a communist, and the local Labour League had become Catholic Action dominated, and they were looking for a way to get rid of a communist headmaster, and I just happened to be in the firing line.
You happened to wander in.
Yeah, I happened to wander in, and they were looking for some reason, and there we were answering the kids' questions and telling them if they reported with VD, no, it wasn't true, they'd be smothered and wouldn't ever come out of the hospital alive, which they believed.
That was a bit way out in 1953, though, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, and it was only the power of the press and the ABC and a few more people that were on my side that said, well, he might be a ratbag, but at least he's on the right wavelength for once. They stayed on my side, and the pusillanimity of the politicians got the better of them, and they decided they better not sack me, so they gave me the job. But I got called in for a 9 o'clock interview on Friday morning, and the idea was to terrorise me to silence, I think. And I got there at 10 to 9, and the Director General got there at 5 to 9, and then he shuffled papers for the next 10 minutes, quarter of an hour. And I thought, we're playing games, I can play them, so I went over to his secretary and I said, I'm very sorry, but the Director General seems too busy to interview me at the moment. Tell him I've gone out to David Jones to buy a pair of shoes and I'll be back at 11 o'clock. He was smart enough not to raise the issue when I did get back at 11 o'clock. It was a flat lie. I didn't have enough money to go and buy a pair of shoes at David Jones. I sat and watched the clock on the Lands building until it was 10 and 11 and walked back in again.
That was very cheeky of you.
Well, I think when you're fighting for your life, you do desperate things.
Mm-hmm. You were involved in spelling reform as well.
Still am.
What form did that take, or what form does that take?
Well, I had all sorts of way-out ideas, along with George Bernard Shaw, who was another ratbag, as you realise. His idea was completely crazy, that we throw the whole lot out and start again. Can't do that. It's ridiculous. I mean, you can't throw out all your typewriters and all your, well, in those days, linotype machines, although they've all gone, of course. I said, well, let's start with the K and the S. Let's spell all the words, character and all of that with a K, and let's spell all the words, receive, and all of those with an S. But it was too drastic, and a guy called Harry Lindgren, a very smart cookie, said, no, too much, let's just change a little thing at a time. Let's spell all the sounding words with the simple letter E. So I do in all my official correspondence and in all my literary efforts and in all my reports, and the whole lot's in SR1.
Was this one of the reasons why you now call yourself Ivor F? Because your name is Ivor F. Stowe, in fact, isn't it?
Well, no, in fact it is Ivor F. It was. It's legal. I changed it by deed poll, only because I was getting a lot of flack from the Department of Education at the time. They said, you can't call yourself Ivor F. I said, I can call myself Mickey Mouse, pull your head in. And they said, well, you won't do it on your official correspondence. So I then had to go out and do it by deed poll, which gave their computer problems. It calls me Ivor F in brackets 04, close the brackets. It just can't handle it.
Ivor, another thing you did, I found this much about you today, that there was a practice of asking employees, when you're a school teacher who are earning, say $20,000 a year, contributing to a testimonial dinner for somebody who was paid a lot more. So you objected to that. In fact, you paid for your own testimonial dinner, and then you asked for the guests to make a contribution to a trust fund for the pupils of Doonside School. Now, that's grown into something rather big today.
Well, it didn't grow. I'm not one little whit modest about that. It didn't grow. I pushed it. I'm a bit like Gil Walquist, who's another ratbag, of course, out there on the fringes of doing what you believe you ought to do, and to heck with what the rest said. No, I've worked 300 days at casual teachers' rates, and because I've got a pension of $19,000 a year, I've got to pay tax on the money at 48 cents in the dollar, and what's left I've given to Doonside High School, and the fund is now, I've got the piece of paper here that I was so pleased to see it. It arrived on the 11th of November. It says current balance on the bottom of the line, $25,000. I was very pleased about that. Perhaps, saying it as shouldn't. Yeah, I believe in state education. I believe that I'm right. I don't believe I'm more physically fit than 90% of Australia's population. I don't believe I'm right about spelling reform and Dame Leone is wrong. I don't believe the average New South Wales state school teacher is politically naive to the point of ignorance and negligence. I don't believe directors of education and inspectors and headmasters and principals, which was the question you asked me, are wrong when they accept presents paid for by people on lower salaries than they. I don't believe that 90% of politicians, state, federal, Labor, Conservative, couldn't care less about state school system, except insofar as it impinges on their chances of re-election. I don't believe those things. I know them. And that, I guess, is what makes a difference between an eccentric. I know that I'm right, and I know they're wrong. It's totally wrong for Doug Swan as the Director General of Education to accept a present paid for by somebody else or anybody else. I know. He believes he's right. I know he's wrong. See, Alexander Pope didn't say, man, believe something about yourself. Presume not God to scan. What he said was, man, know thyself. Now, none of us can really know ourselves, Frank, but at least...
At least we can try, can't we?
We'll have a go. Bit of an effort at it. Yeah.
We'll have a go, Ivor. Yeah. And on top of all that, Ivor, all the things you don't believe in and the things you do believe in, you are probably the best-known model plane maker in Australia.
Oh, it's a misnomer. I would be certainly the best known. I'm a long, long, long way down the tree from one of the best. I'm the best known because I've been at it longer than anybody. And I've done it now for 40 years. I've run a model airplane club for 40 years. And I go to all the national championships, and I'm the auctioneer, unofficial, because I haven't got a licence. And I suppose I've raised many thousands of dollars for various charities. We gave... Bennelong took us to task one year, you know Bennelong on the back page?
Sure.
For using Camden Aerodrome for our toy aeroplanes. So we sent him a cheque. It was the time of Tracy, the cyclone in Darwin. So we sent him a cheque for $1,500. He had the decency to, and we said from the little boys with their toys at Camden Aerodrome. Now that was considerably more than all the big boys with their big toys on Camden Aerodrome ever gave him. So he said, I've been perfectly squelched, he said. He took the $1,500. Per head, there were only 400 of us. It was the largest single sporting contribution to Cyclone Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
Aero models are a different breed. Perhaps they're all mad, perhaps they're all ratbags, a little bit. You've got to be to spend hundreds of hours on a thing, throw it into the air and smash it, then go back and do it again. That's
Ivor, terrific. I'm glad you could come in today, and congratulations on winning that title to Australia's Greatest Eccentric. I think you should be very proud of that.
I thought I was going to get a chance to play this mouth organ standing on my hands. I thought that was part of the deal.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we do that?
Well, you were going to ask me, how do you do it? You said that was one of the early questions. Well, how you do it is you learn to play a scale. You learn to play a scale without moving the mouth organ. And then, when you've done that, when you can play the scale without moving, you know those most of them have 2 bits of wire and they move their head alongside the mouth organ. But I thought, well, it is possible. So here we go. Will the microphone pick it up?
I wish you could see this. He's standing on his hands and playing the mouth organ. If that isn't eccentric, I don't know what is. Ivor F, congratulations and thanks again.
Oh, thank you, Frank. Enjoy it very much. Look after yourself. More power to your elbow. Enjoy your show in drive time, coming home in the afternoons.
Thank you, Ivor. Tell your friends.
Be good. Ciao.
So long. Ivor F, Australia's Greatest Eccentric. Fancy that, 25-5. Quite exhausted after that. I think we'd better get some news headlines with Barry Friedman. Hello, Barry.
Hello, Frank. An investigation into the loss of the Philippines cargo ship Singers...